Let's go into our session today where we're going to look at AI and the student experience, and we're going to have some global insights for higher education. And we'll talk about data, and we have a great panel coming at you shortly and sharing what they've learned so far in their first iteration of their research. The session overview, we're going to check in with your student AI use knowledge and experience. We'll look at what the data from the present study tells us, so the domains of student use, the most common ways, the key themes and trends, and also some variation by place and culture. And then we also want to, throughout, engage with your experience. And I'll pause there because I always like to make sure you all know that this is really about a community, a professional learning experience, and a space for sharing with each other. So please continue to use the chat as much as you would like. There's several of us here today who can help to moderate that, but we won't be able to respond to everything, but you're always great at responding to each other and sharing resources with each other. And we will be taking the chat and creating an abridged version and sharing that as a resource with our recap that'll go to you within the next couple days. So please feel free to use that throughout. As far as introductions, I'll pause on myself briefly. I'm Brett Christie, and I'm VP for Educational Innovations at Alchemy. I've been in that position for a little over 5 years, and before that, 25 years in higher education as a faculty member and also a faculty developer at the campus level and the Cal State system level. So that's my background, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Let's go into introductions for our panel. I'm really excited about this session. I've been able to work with them a few times leading up to this. And what I would think as far as capturing this group is I always feel just so much energy and intelligence and collaborative spirit from this group. And I'm really excited about that. And it's just, I find it really contagious and really inviting. And I'm excited to also hear what they're going to share with you about the data. And I've been able to obviously see what's coming. And I think you're going to have a great presentation and great experience from them. Let me introduce them, and I'll have to do some reading here. Apologies. Louisa Baum is a PhD student and research associate at the Center for Lifelong Learning, Johannesburg Gutenberg University in Mainz, Germany, about an hour from Frankfurt, as far as I know. She focuses on AI and language learning, bridging practical skills with ethical awareness. She designs professional development to build data literacy and AI confidence, and researches how teachers can integrate AI meaningfully. I will move on to Evelina Lacey, who's Global Operations Director at the Institute for Study Abroad, leading programs across Europe, China, and Australia. She has a career in 5 countries as a background and brings a global perspective and speaks and writes on AI's impact on education, work, and culture, emphasizing responsible human-centered use. On to Lori Robbins, who's head of AI strategy at Denison University, guiding adoption of Gen AI and emerging tech across instruction, operations, and innovation. She's also founder of Horizon AI, an AI consulting company. With a background in international education and ed tech, she builds programs that help students, faculty, and staff engage critically and creatively with new tools. And last, not least, we have Cassandra Silva Sibilin, a lecturer of philosophy at York College in the CUNY system, helping students and educators think critically about generative AI beyond hype and fear. A growth mindset ambassador and former Mellon Transformative Learning Fellow, she designs hands-on learning that centers curiosity, reflection, and ethics, and leads workshops and keynotes across CUNY and beyond. So there's our panel. That's all we have time for. Now, let's move on. Great. Thank you so much again, panelists, for being here with us today. Okay, so what I want to do is check in first about your thoughts regarding student AI use. We always like to do some quick pulse surveys as you register. And so let's look at the first question. This was your current sense of what students are doing with AI. We had just over half reporting some awareness from observation or hearsay. The hearsay could be through colleagues. It could be reading a blurb, a news blast. It could be something on Reddit. It could be an actual research report. It could be a variation of sources, but it was tended to be more secondhand. About 30% said you're well informed. You're discussing it with students regularly. Great. And that would not be everybody because people are still early on in adopting AI and integrating it into their courses and having very informed conversations. That's a process. So people are getting there still. About 17% have limited knowledge but want to learn more. Great. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. And very few felt that they were largely unaware of student AI use. So that's a quick snapshot of where you are, and then we'll be able to map that to some of the things that were found to this study. And then later on in the session, we'll look at the other Pulse question that you shared with us, and we'll have some other interaction as well. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Lori and step into the background and let our panelists go.
Great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you again for being here. I wanted to provide a little bit of context about how this survey came about. There was a Harvard Business Review article that was published last spring where they talked about different use cases of how people are using generative AI. And I'm at Denison University in Granville, Ohio, and thought I'm really curious to see how our students are engaging with these tools. So I created a survey of about 30 different use cases. There were some short answer questions as well. And I gave it out to my campus. And the insights were really valuable just to see how students were admitting that they're using generative AI tools. So I was in a group of women in higher ed that are engaging with AI. This was a group that had a spotlight from AI for Education. It's a phenomenal resource that I recommend checking out, AI for Education. There were about 20 of us in this group, and I asked them if they would be interested in growing the survey beyond Denison. And so we had a nice collection of international respondents. And so we're going to be sharing those international results with you today. To give you a little bit more information about who completed this survey, we had over 500 participants. We keep giving this survey out to more and more people because we really want to grow this to have a really large sample size. But you can see we have over 14 countries that have been represented. You can see those countries here. So we have a nice cross-section across different continents. So now I'm going to pass it off to Evelina, who will be walking through a little bit more about the survey categories and what some of those findings were.
Thank you, Laurie. Hello, everybody. So let's begin with an overview of how students are engaging with AI. We categorized their AI use case into 4 different broad domains, as you can see here: education, productivity, wellness, and entertainment. And this gives us a clear picture that of AI, not just as an academic tool, but to some extent from the responses we get as a life skill or a growing life skill. A recent Oxford University Press report called Teaching AI, the AI Native Generation, mentions that today's learners are AI natives. Their relationship with technology is immersive and not really optional. Next, please. Great, thank you. This breakdown you can see here reflects what we saw across those 500 plus student responses. AI is integrated into nearly every part of educational and personal lives. And students use it for studying and staying organized. And our data here shows that nearly 58% use it in all 4 domains. And fewer than 3% report not using it at all. This means that almost every student now interacts with AI in some way or another, and opting out of AI is increasingly the exception and not actually the norm. This also shows that we really need to prepare students for responsible AI fluency and not just think about how we can regulate to some extent access. And these were the conversations, I think, and thoughts we had 2 years ago. So it's interesting how how everything is moving forward. Now, I wanted to look at the top 10 student AI use cases. So when we ask students to describe what they actually do with AI, we found that their patterns are quite highly pragmatic, focused on managing workload and improving comprehension. The most common use case at 63% was to use AI to condense long academic articles, research papers, or book chapters for quicker understanding. 57%, so very close, use AI to digest lecture materials and textbook chapters into key points. This tells us that they are extending AI into the study cycle itself, using it for consolidation and review. And And a recent survey from Inside Higher Ed 2025 found a similar trend, that students view it as a way to capture what matters after class. 56% report using AI for task management and organization. And it's a good reminder that students see it not just as a tutor to some extent, but also as a productive partner. So AI becomes a new planner. Another 56% use AI to help them understand complex topics. And 56% use it to translate or polish their writing. And I think this is pretty significant as well with the number of international students we have. And international, talking about studying in English, let's say in English language. We could also call them multilingual students, where AI can help so much more, and to some extent reduce the barrier for global learners who are thinking in one language and writing in another. Over half, so 53%, use AI to generate study guides or flashcards. And this demonstrates how students are turning to AI for as a self-directed learning coach. I think some of the quotes mentioned. Half of the students, 50%, reported using AI to assist with essay writing. And I think the comments referred to confidence building in that area as well, how AI can support that process. 47% use it for language learning. Students can practice dialogues, check grammar, explore cultural nuances. So very, very interesting. Then 44% turn to AI for health and fitness coaching. So that's interesting. This is one of the first entry here in the top 10 cases, where you can see that students use it to also support their well-being and balance, not just coursework. And then 41% use it for tutoring and homework help. I think this underscores why it's very important to shift from kind of restriction that we've had in the past, that idea that we discussed in the past, to actually responsible integration. Students are already learning with AI, and our role is to help them learn kind of through it. Thank you, and I'll pass you over to Luisa now.
Thank you, Evelina, and hi from me too. After looking at the top 10 mainly academic uses, I'd like to highlight some of the other ways students are using Gen AI, and these often go beyond coursework. For example, almost 40% of the students in our survey mentioned using Gen AI to prepare resumes and for job application assistance. This also aligns with some broader findings. So writing or editing CVs appears as a frequent use case. And it also shows how AI is already supporting students in professional transitions. And 1/3 of the participants in the survey, almost 40%, I wanted to say, of the students in our survey mentioned using Gen AI to prepare resumes and for job application assistance, which I already said. And furthermore, 1/3 of the participants also reported using Gen AI for scheduling and time management. This also shows that AI is already supporting routine administrative tasks, which also indicates growing trust in AI as a helpful tool for improving everyday efficiency, for example. Which is really interesting is that 24% said they use AI for therapy and even life coaching. On the global scale, there are related cases, also such as relationship advice, deep and meaningful conversations, or even mental health support. This shows how strongly AI is entering into the personal and emotional dimensions of student life. So one student said, for example, I shared quite private things about my feelings with AI to get some mental comfort. And in the overall wellness category, 13.3% of our participants selected both therapy, coaching, and also stress management. tips. So this suggests that those seeking mental health guidance also tend to use AI for everyday coping strategies, which we found really interesting. And finally, almost 20% said they use Gen AI for companionship. So that might mean casual chats or even feeling less lonely. The larger data set here shows similar categories like therapy, companionship, or even fun and nonsense. And which is really interesting is that AI starts functioning less like a tool and more like a social partner in those kind of use cases. So yeah, this was quite interesting when we first looked at the survey findings. But the findings also align with market trends, showing that AI is increasingly used as a social companion. According to a survey from 2024, 65% of AI companionship app downloads come from users aged 18 to 24, with popular apps including Replica and Character AI, which, by the way, is one of the most popular AI apps, I think top 5 right now. So those AI companion apps use generative AI to simulate conversations and provide social or emotional interaction for users. So this part of the use cases also is like getting larger and larger because we are always getting new participants, and so it already grew from time to time. And only 2% of our participants didn't select any use cases, meaning that 98% are using generative AI in some capacity. So overall, what we see is that students use Gen AI goes far beyond academic tasks, and it extends into professional development, personal well-being, and even emotional support. And up to now, we've seen the top 10 use cases, also some other use cases, so mainly the statistics of how students are using Gen AI. But to balance the numbers, we also asked them to share their opinions in their own words. And that is why we've also brought some quotes and 2 examples. Laurie, could you go to the quote slide? Yeah, that's perfect. So there's the second example. So the one student told us AI will only become more relevant as a tool of the modern world. As college students, we should know how to use every tool at our disposal. And at the same time, another student strongly rejected AI art, saying, AI art is awful as it takes away the human from creative expression. I could go on and on, but I think it's the one form of AI that should not be used as it's pulling from a database of other artists' work rather than creating something original or emotionally raw. And these 2 quotes illustrate the range of student perspectives that we'd expect to see. From enthusiasm and openness on the one hand to strong skepticism on the other hand. Yeah, so we have the whole range represented in the survey. And with that, I will hand it over to Cassandra now, who will talk about key themes and trends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luisa. And I'm happy to be here. Hi, everyone. Yes, I will talk about some of the key themes and trends that emerged from the survey results. And the first one was desire for guidance and integration. Desire for guidance and integration. Many students want professors to teach them how to use AI responsibly. They see value in AI, but feel they need structured support from their professors to make it a tool for learning, not just shortcuts. For example, a student wrote in the open-ended question, show me how I could use AI to promote learning. Another one was frustration with restrictions. Students expressed concern that professors are too focused on banning or blocking AI, rather than, like we saw in the previous theme, helping them to learn how to use it effectively. This creates tension when students see real-world relevance but feel limited in class. And a student wrote, actually let me use it to my advantage instead of trying to find as many ways as possible to stop me from using it. Third theme, openness and curiosity. Many students ask for professors to be more open-minded. They see AI as an inevitable part of their academic and professional futures and want faculty to acknowledge its potential rather than fear it. Fourth, fairness and clarity. Some students worry about unclear or inconsistent policies in different courses, and they want transparent guidelines so they know what is acceptable and how they can avoid accusations of misuse. And fifth one, balance of innovation and integrity. Students recognize that AI can bring efficiency and creativity, but they, and this coming from students, they highlight the need to protect learning, originality, and ethical use. And it reflects a nuanced view, right? So it's not all good, AI is good, or AI is bad, but a call for a balanced adoption. And next slide. And before we move on, here is a quick surprise theme that emerged. Now, we did not ask students to comment on how their professors were using AI, yet some brought this up unprompted, and these quotes really stood out. One student urged us to understand how students and teachers can use it as a resource and to check the information provided by it. Another student recommended use AI as a co-teacher, supplementary, not complementary, enhancing learning without replacing human insight. And I think that means really to support what a teacher is doing, not replace it. And finally, stop using it for grading. Even when students talk about their own AI use, they're watching how we use it. And this is really a reminder to be transparent about our practices, explain how we use it, why we use it. And if we want thoughtful, responsible behavior from our students, we should model that for them. And now I will pass it back to Lori for themes related to place and culture.
Thank you. Yes, so we had this amazing data set, and we wanted to see what were some of the differences across geography and location. Something that we found was that our non-US students were more likely to use AI to help understand more complex topics and find ways that they could polish or translate their writing. For them, it felt like it was an access tool and just an extending way to comprehend in a multilingual environment. Our United States students said that they were more likely to use AI to summarize long papers and articles. So some quotes that stood out to me of students talking about this were, I use this to condense articles so that I can study faster. One student even went so far as to say, I don't read text longer than a page anymore. So students are using AI as a way to help with their workload, and they're really focused more on efficiency and getting things done. We also found from our US students that they are more likely than our other students at other continents to use AI for wellness and balance. So our non-US students rarely mentioned any sort of emotional use case, whereas our US students did. They mentioned using it for journaling, using it to talk about personal stress when they're feeling overwhelmed, using it for companionship and therapy, like Louisa mentioned. They're really blending their academic and personal use cases and having more of a holistic self-management strategy using this. Our middle students also had more mention of inconsistency across their professors, and this really reveals for us some policy confusion that students are facing, and they really are craving more consistency and clear guidance from their faculty members. Something that stood out to me were students who said, don't just tell me that I can use generative AI. I want you to show me how. Talk to me about to what extent can I be using AI in my coursework? We also thought that the role of institutional culture would be interesting to compare and just to see how the type of institution that students were enrolled in impacted ways that they're engaging with artificial intelligence. So we found that a lot of them are in public universities are using AI as an accessibility tool. Something that stood out to me was a student saying that to them, artificial intelligence is like having a TA 24/7. They're using it to help them with translations, as a tutoring tool, with code assistance. And they also seemed to be more curious about using generative AI. They were more creative. There was a sense of less fear around cheating with our students from public institutions. Whereas with our private and liberal arts institutions, we found that for them, AI was much more of a conversational topic. They tend to have a lot more to say about reflection and ethics and limitations. For them, they really seem to mirror faculty language about learning with integrity and critical thinking. One student mentioned that to them, they want to discuss how AI changes learning, not just results. They're more likely to use it for reflection than they are for shortcuts. Our community college students, they seem to use this much more for career readiness and job preparation, task management. For them, AI is much more of a practical support, not necessarily a curiosity tool. But all students, regardless of where they are, there were a lot of shared common ground. So we found that students are closely watching faculty behavior and they're mirroring that. So when instructors seem to model thoughtful use and they have conversations with students about generative AI, students tend to be more open and curious about it. However, if faculty members are banning it or avoiding it, students tend to hide or minimize their use case for that. There is a lot of optimism around AI for students, regardless of where they are geographically or what type of institution they're enrolled in. So we see a lot of that. We also saw that students across the board had a lot of recognition of the limitations of artificial intelligence. And there was a big call to ask, how can I verify the outputs? I want to critically evaluate the outputs that I'm getting from these tools, but I need some support and resources on how I can do that well. A lot of them view AI literacy for career readiness or fast or training. They are not just wanting permission from faculty to use these tools in coursework, but they want more of a partnership. So rather than focusing on surveillance, they're asking for collaboration. And so one of our strategies that we kind of took away from the survey was just the importance of faculty and staff to really model how they're engaging with artificial intelligence and to be vulnerable and open to kind of establish a sense of trust where students feel like they can start engaging in these conversations and it's not so much a cat and mouse game, that it's more of a collaborative effort. And so now I'm going to pass it back to Brett, who will talk about your context and your moves.
Great. Thank you so much. And again, I want to thank everybody for all the commentary in the chat and just making this about an engaged community conversation with what's being shared here on the main screen, but also what's taking place in the chat. A lot of touch points. Appreciate that. So now let's talk a little bit more about your respective context and connecting with you in this session, and then also thinking about what moves you're making or could be making or plan to make in the future related to this topic. So what we'll do is we'll look back at pre-poll question number 2, where we focused on areas of student AI use that you feel are most urgent. And so equity and responsible use jumped out. That was about half. That desire for ethical frameworks, clear guidance, fair access, those things, great. Love to see that jump to the top. Academic support, that was about a third of you looking for clarity on student aids, translation, concept help, things like that. Career preparation, that was great. Saw about 16% or 1 in 6 choosing discipline-aligned professional scenarios. And then the last one was on, still important is creative and personal use, about 5%. And so what that told, the implication here as far as the responses you gave is leading with that transparent and equitable guidance, but then through the course level experiences, also trying to bring in some more career prep oriented experiences with readiness. And that's going to depend on the course level, discipline, but there's definitely that need for bringing in both of those elements as well. Okay, so that's what you told us in that moment. And let's get into a little bit more of live sharing in the moment. And the link to this will go into the chat. I will pause here momentarily in case we have anybody needing the QR code. And then I'll join you on the live screen here. But you'll go into your browser by clicking the link in the chat. And that's coming momentarily. There we go. And in the Padlet, you'll see 3 columns. Don't feel like you need to reply to all of them. Go to the one that speaks to you most and contribute there. And then go to another one if you're able to with time. We will keep this Padlet available because, of course, with a few hundred of you, there's going to be a lot of rich information, as you've already seen in the chat. So we'll keep this available for you, but we also like to analyze the Padlet and report that out as a post for people. Okay, so I'm going to go there myself to the main screen. And as we refresh, we've already got some people contributing. Great. If you're new to Padlet, look for the plus button underneath each of the 3 prompts in those columns, and then you'll be able to put in your response. Yeah, students could certainly, if they want to, use chat as a way to respond to discussion boards. So how do you respond to make sure that your prompts are bringing in more authentic experiences, more personal experience? That's tricky, that's difficult to do, but you can also do things like having them respond in audio if you're using something besides your LMS discussion tool, or offering audio responses and trying to do it that way. Now, of course, they can train a tool if they want to do their audio responses for them. So it's that continual process of figuring out, okay, what's the best way to continue that authentic learning experience and that authentic assessment possibility. Also leaning into the why of you're having them do the discussion so they can appreciate why it's important for them to be responding. And of course, there will be many of these that I won't be able to get to. I'm just going to glance and select any that jump out. Using GenAI as their go-to search browser, but hopefully they're thinking of it more deeply than that, or as a more capable browser. Not just searching for a quick answer to something, but also thinking about the process of going through that discovery, what it means, questioning the results, engaging with it, refining it, those types of things, journaling about it, whatever it may be. Translating lectures into native language. Also, maybe they're translating really dense articles they've been given into spoken podcast type conversations, where they don't need to necessarily know the research methods of the article, but they need to know the results. They need to know the interpretation and the implications, and they can focus on that maybe more readily. That can be for all students, but especially for those that are not receiving this in their native language. Then I see summarizing in podcast, just as I said. Okay, great. Let me go down the middle column here, younger versus older students. I saw that in the chat quite a bit. Yes, differences there for sure. Faculty surveillance. So yes, how to move from surveillance to more of partnerships and using AI more effectively, constructively, and appropriately. Okay, and let me go over one thing you would change about your institution guiding things forward. So some faculty development for sure, and informing faculty on how they should be helping students to use AI the right ways. But of course, many will not do it at all. They've taken the stance that it will not be part of their course. It will not be part of the learning experience. So it's banned. We'll see how long that lasts. One school mostly ignoring AI, a lot saying they can't, I can tell when students are using it. I don't know how much that would be accurate. It depends on the sophistication of the student use. Also, if you're using it constructively as a learning tool, then you would hopefully see how they're using it and it would be transparent in both directions. Yes, AI literacy for students. So how do they learn how to use it effectively, efficiently, ethically, all those things? Where does that reside? Some thoughts have been as part of a first-year experience course. Some thoughts have been as sort of a standalone module they might go through to be able to check off and show that they've learned that. So whose responsibility does it come? And then how does that go forward with them through the program? Environmental use came up a lot. That was noted certainly in the chat today and seeing it here on the screen. A lot of mixed data, so hard to tell what to say in the moment and then also long term as things progress. I'm hearing different things at different times, comparing usage to developing a hamburger, streaming a video. There's some interesting comparison charts out there. And of course, the technology will continue to progress and hopefully be less and less of a factor in the LLMs being more and more efficient in the token usage and things like that. And panelists, feel free if you see anything that stands out related to what you presented today. So ignoring students, yeah, that's a big one. And what I saw in the first pre-poll question was, an indication that we can do things like bringing students into the conversation, pulling them at certain points, bringing them into focus groups, having student panels on the campus, those types of things. So if your institution isn't already doing those things, that's a great opportunity to raise awareness and also bring in the student voice, raise awareness for the
Yes.
students and also for the faculty. Yes, Lori?
Yes, and so in addition to this student survey that I did last spring, I also did faculty department listening sessions where we went around to different departments and just said, talk to us about AI. And it was really fascinating to have what faculty were saying and to compare it with our student survey results. We found that they had so much in common. Everybody's worried, everybody's, concerned about the environmental impact and what does this mean for creative fields? And so I think it's just really fascinating because it seems like the message that we get tends to be that it's faculty versus students when actually there's a lot of common ground. So that would be another really great thing for your institution if you're just starting with your AI journey. I would recommend to just spend a season really focused on listening, whether that's going to different departments, hosting student panels like Brett mentioned, and doing things like this survey. I think that what you'll find is really valuable to help guide your next step.
Great. And
That's
what I
something.
gained from that, oh, sorry, Cassandra.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yes.
What I heard most from that is listening, because that's the best way to start a dialogue is listening. If you're just telling what should be, then there's going to be resistance and it's going to feel like a one-way thing. It's going to feel like it's being pushed on people. So that listening and opening up that dialogue is a great way to go. Cassandra?
Yes, echoing that to listen to your own students, to listen to what faculty learn from their students. On the one hand, it can seem anecdotal, but we're really connected with them, and it's that active listening that's important. For instance, my own students were surprised I was asking them, so they don't get that a lot, and that there was no right or wrong answer. And I also wanted to add that there are reports out there, and I'm sure you've seen some, and Laura mentioned Harvard Business Review, but to always look at those closely and see where that information is coming from, what the methodology is. When we looked closer at the Harvard Business Review, it turned out it wasn't based on surveys, it was based on searching through Reddit threads and blogs, which is a very different methodology, and maybe there's merit to that too, but it's not what we wanted to do here. If you don't trust students, and if you're worried that they're gonna lie and like not say how they're really using it, that's an impediment. But we were trusting, right? These kind of surveys, trusting that it's anonymous and that students really want to share and want to have that dialogue two ways.
Great, thank you. And one thing related to that that stands out to me on the screen is using more asset-based language. And I used the term constructive a couple of times earlier, and to me that's being more asset-based and being asset-based, focusing on the good aspects of what AI can provide for learning and support and those types of things, still acknowledging the other things, but trying to keep the focus on the asset-based elements and really propping that up. But that takes, I think a little bit deeper understanding of what those asset-based things are and being comfortable with that and being able to model that, where sometimes it's easier just to say the negative things and sort of cast that first and block things. So if we can get more people AI informed, AI literate, whichever term you want to use, on those asset-based options and how to really shift things into that realm and keep things into that realm as much as possible, then I think we can move forward as positive as possible. It's not all perfect.
I
Okay.
wanted, there's one thing I wanted to say, Brett, about us learning together. Just not forgetting, we're talking about being kind of kind to ourselves as well as kind to the students. We are all learning. I think with AI, especially with generative AI, we just have to remember that we are building AI muscle to some extent, AI literacy muscle at the same pace as we're trying to cope with the new information coming in, all the new resources coming, tools coming through, and students are doing the same. They are exploring, navigating that avenue as well. And I think when we're talking about openness and listening, it's good to engage in that conversation together, how we navigate this new terrain together, how we are learning, how we are coping with that, and also how to think kind of critically, because even the standard critical thinking idea, we are being challenged by the new type of misinformation, the new type of fake news, etc., etc. So it's very interesting times, and I think the more we do together, the more we can learn from each other as well.
Great. Thank you, Evelina.
Yes, and I think we can also learn a lot from the students, not only that faculty teach the students about AI, because I think they even, learn faster, because in many workshops about AI that I teach, the mainly language teachers often come to me and say, because I'm always asking, why did you join the workshop? They are always like, or many of them are like, yeah, because my students are using AI, so I need to learn about it too. So it's actually, what we already taught you, like the other way around even sometimes. So we should listen.
Always. Yes. Thank you. Okay, let me jump back here. And so okay, came out of the Padlet. So what I want to do now is take us from some of the insights we've talked about, from the panel, from your sharing, and now think about more of action and next steps. So I propped up this framing where you can look at categories of agency, policy, or equity, and where you might make some next steps in your work, in your position, and those that you work with. And so what might you do now? And think of that as the next week. And this can be a small step, but it's a step. And then what can you do within the next 30 days? So if you look at the examples there for agency, policy, or equity, could be adding a short AI reflection prompt to one assignment so that you're acknowledging that it can be used in a particular way in assignment. You can write how they would use it, how they should not use it, but having them reflect on that and how it was part of their learning process. You can post something as a note in your LMS about permitted uses. You can talk about privacy concerns, ethical uses, things like that. So taking this framework of now and next, and we won't focus on later because that's something you might be thinking about more toward revisions for your spring course, let's say. But let's just focus on the next week or the next 30 days and have you come up with something, and don't put anything into the chat yet. And some of you may know the technique chatterfall, and there's different terms for it. But let's pause here and just have you think and then draft, but not submit. So in the chat, think about one concrete step that you'll be able to take to support student agency and responsible AI use. So in your statement, start with whether it's a now or next, so this week or in the next month, and then think about where that lives. Is it something that's part of an assignment, or is it a syllabus element? Is it something part of a workshop or an LMS element? Depends on whether you're an instructor or faculty developer or administrator. What type of thing would you be putting out? Where would that live? So there's an example statement down at the bottom. These are very brief, so don't think about making it very, full-blown and described, but what would that look like? So in the chat, let's take about another 30 seconds for you to think about what that might be, and then I'll have you launch by saying go. And if there are questions about the task, let me know. And as you're thinking, I want to let you know that we will take all of these submissions and we will put those as the abridged summary, but we'll also pull those out and do a write-up of it with names removed. So don't worry about your name showing up with any of your comments there. That was one thing that I wanted to mention. So go ahead and go put those in. I see some of you have started. So let's go ahead and blast those through with, again, 250 or so of you. We're not going to be able to read all of these now, but as we share these out with you, hopefully you'll have some learnings and some ideas across each other. Great. So offering a workshop, I see, is an option for faculty related to AI. An AI survey in a course. Sponsor a student panel. Working on an ethical framework for AI use in ID processes, so instructional design is what I'm assuming there. Guide students through their AI usage. That's a big one. That's going to be a continual, but you can make that next step. That's great. Review documents for grant development. It can make great suggestions based on RFPs and things like that and requirements. Next term, spend a class demonstrating good and bad use. Great. AI survey, I see several related to AI surveys on campus. And again, you'll have access to this survey. The link is coming up on another slide or two. Planning a student faculty panel, great. Creating a custom ChatGPT or Gemini Gem for a writing tutor. Awesome. So many, many ideas contributed. So we will get those to you in the recap, and you'll be able to think of any of those that you haven't adopted yet or haven't maybe considered, and what might be a good next step for you. Seeing more coming in again, great. Currently using AI to show students how they can understand complex topics and summarize, great. And again, it's not about the shortcutting, it's about the supporting. Even thinking about designing new courses. Tension between literature and technology or media development. Yeah, and with AI, that's certainly accelerated. Okay, great. Feel free, if you're still typing or have another, you can add that and it'll get recorded and shared. I'm going to go ahead and move us forward with time consideration here. and just close us down through some resources and then just see if there are any final questions or comments for the panel. We'll have limited time for that, but we'll try and make that happen. First, we wanted to share this again, their link tree that they've created. So we'll put that into the chat momentarily. That will lead you to the survey request form and to their respective LinkedIn profiles. And I'm trying to remember what else is there, but you've got the link just shared in the chat just now.
And can add a quick shout out
Cassandra.
to AI for Education, Amanda Bickerstaff, who did the spotlight, and Sarah Radner at Oxford University that helped us continue spreading the results of the survey.
Great. And you can see the member spotlight here and our panelists featured. Awesome. And then related to AI literacy, I'll give a plug for our free AI literacy micro-credential. This is something that is a micro-credential of 4 modules, and each module is designed to take approximately 60 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes, but probably more towards 60 minutes. So in 30 minutes a week, in 2 months, you could have the micro-credential completed, or whatever pace you want to do. It's online, it's asynchronous. And as I said, it's free. And so we'll put the link into the chat for anybody who wants to sign up for that. Okay, and I'll make sure that link goes in before I go away. There we go. And then related to that, any of you who are faculty developers, who are faculty associates in your Center for Teaching and Learning or in other roles who may want to have an AI literacy campus cohort, you would be able to use our AI literacy micro-credential as that hub experience, and in a hybrid way, then be able to do your own campus cohort experience, where at the end of each module, you can bring those participants from your campus together for your own dialogue as they progress through the micro-credential, where they can share their respective learnings through their respective disciplines and their situations. So that's a campus cohort kit that we're offering that's very extensive. It has the materials for you to be able to implement things pretty easily. It's all open access materials that you can adapt or adopt readily. And we have some campus cohorts already going, which is great. So that link is in the chat for you as well, and the QR. And the last thing is you can always access our prior webinars through our playlist and all of our collated resources here at the links that you see on the screen. And I'll stop with that. And again, I want to acknowledge our panelists today for sharing their time and their expertise and their experience through their survey and through their respective roles in their campuses and organizations. Really can't thank you enough for all that you've shared here today and the work that you continue to do day to day. So thank you again.